Well, that's excellent. So I've just done a good 5-minute monologue that nobody could hear. Evening all. Sorry about that. Always going to happen. First show in. Is that any better? If someone can just say yes. Great. I'll redo the monologue then, as none of you heard me. Hello and welcome back. Welcome to season 10 of the greatest CM0102 content out there. Welcome to the Super League, and otherwise known as the two at the back capital of the world. What I was saying that none of you could hear was thank you very much to managers and fans alike for your patience, and I hope your patience will be rewarded with a wonderful season. That's genuinely my hope. Having looked through some of the squads, I'm looking forward to seeing some new players. There's some different names out there. And thank you for all the suggestions during the close season as well. I know this week looks exactly how it's always looked, and the reason for that is I tried so hard going back and redoing the transfers, etc., to make sure everything was in place. There's been plenty of helpful advice and tips and stuff given, and I know there's been people offering their services to help me set certain bits up. During Christmas and New Year, I'm hoping to take that up, so there will be a new look, a new feel in my hope to do what my predecessors have done and hopefully take the product to a new level. But I just needed to switch off for a little bit and concentrate ready for tonight. So hopefully that'll all be there. I know you'll all be disappointed Jamie's not here. He's traditionally Game Week 1 co-commentator. I had the briefest of exchanges with him earlier, and I'm really hoping that I will have him on between Christmas and New Year for Game Week 2. That is my hope and something for you all to look forward to. I don't know what else I said during the first one, if I'm honest. I mentioned that if you missed it, then the history for these games, the head-to-head records were all put up before I went live to nobody. And also a flip through of all the transfers, in case there was anything you might have missed. Other than that, hopefully we can actually get on. And I was going to start with Haggis. And I was saying how, as a squad, they're an interesting one. They're one that a lot of people talk about. If you look at the transfer screen that they've got here, I really like the business they've done. They look, at least on paper, they look to have improved. I think for me, it's interesting that the 5 main signings all start tonight, whereas the 2 auction players who they spent a lot of money on don't even make the initial 24. That was something that was of interest to me when I was putting the teams together. They are missing 2 key players, as we can see, with Stam and Cole, which I think will be a big loss. I'm interested what might happen with Vasilyuk this year. He didn't feature as much as maybe some expected last year, and certainly didn't before his move to Haggis. Is he going to build on his reputation from previous incarnations of the Super League? Be interested to see what happens there. I do have a slight concern for them in terms of lack of depth when it comes to moving around with reserves. Do they have much there to play with? This is the tactic that Ian has put forward tonight. Shevchenko moving back into an AM position, which isn't too unfamiliar to him in a Haggis shirt, to allow Torres to play up top. Other names of interest, Stephen Reed playing is an interesting one as well. Alan Smith moving from Northern Burns bench to Haggis's bench. I'm sure he's definitely going to feature more though. And how are Jeremies and Mendieta going to be able to do the job of Vieira is the big question. Let's see what Dudley have to offer. And this is the tactic put forward by Steve. I'm consciously checking the YouTube comments to make sure I haven't missed anything. I don't believe I have. I have checked. I've been going through everything to make sure. Dudley Hill. They're one of 2 teams I was particularly interested in their transfer business. I think they're up there with the most improved squads. And Despite that, there's still some interesting squad selections, in my opinion, that there are potentially players in the reserves I think could be first teamers and vice versa. A lot of people mentioning, I see, for example, Scott saying it's a good window. Very much so. I do agree. They definitely don't have the weakest reserve team either. So where I was mentioning about Haggis and do they have the depth throughout the whole squad, I actually think Dudley probably do. But you know, they have options there should they need them throughout the season. So really, and this will be a theme for two or three clubs tonight. You'll notice. I think Steve's out of excuses now, and I think he's the sort that he would agree. I don't think that there's any other excuse for if Dudley fail again. I think they have to do better than last year. If they don't, he has to take full responsibility. Not that he didn't before, but I think there is a lot of pressure on him to do better this year. Just having a look through, and I can see that there's already a couple of draws being predicted for the first game of the new Super League season. So let's get it underway. And it's Haggis at home to Dudley Hill. And the yellow card, Brad McKay in charge, a name not unfamiliar to Haggis games. Dudley scored the first goal of the season with Zanoni, and then instantly Steve Finnan gets injured. So it's the pros and cons, Steve. Pros and cons. You take the lead, but your favourite player is now injured. Dan, chat positive, Fifey Nonsense. No, that's not true. I said it's much improved, and if they fail again, it is purely down to Steve because they have improved. I called them one of the most improved squads. Tudor and swap with Kaladze. There we go. Duggan looks more solid than anything he's put out previous. I'm inclined to agree. We resume. So Dudley Hill have the lead, but Haggis come forward. I'm seeing Torres' name there. Luca Toni looks certain to score, but misses. Still be hoping for another good season from him. But it's the debutant, the former Devil, Roy Mackay makes it 2. And now Haggis are in a lot of trouble. And there is the half-time whistle. Dudley playing very well for an away side. Haggis will not be happy seeing those stats. We'll go to the home side first. Tato saying, I think the arrows on Haggis have killed them. Relegation talk from Scotland incoming. It's been very meh. You know, my favourite term when describing any teams. It's not been the worst performance by a team, but Ian would certainly have expected much more. I mean, Steve, without even seeing the stats, have said as is. You know, which is brave. Not taking fitness or anything into consideration, but we'll give Ian a chance to review what he's done here. This is the vaccine. Evening smuts. While we wait for Ian, actually, I do just want to send Mr. and Lady Smuts my very best, as by the next time we go live, there will be baby Smuts on the scene as well. So very best to them. Move Sheva with Torres and then Danielson for Torres. So Torres has only lasted 45 minutes on his debut before being replaced. Danielson comes on. We'll just have a quick click on Dudley just so Steve can see. And we will kick off the second half. Will the substitute have the impact? Danielson already picking up a yellow card. And it's 3-0 and it's another debutant goal. It's Guerrero. There will be absolutely no need to slow this game down. But the substitute has made an impact. It is 3-1. But Luca Toni makes it 4. What a great start to the season. I'm giving you boys a round of applause already. This is what we want from the Super League. Goals, goals, goals. 4-1 with 5 minutes plus injury time to go, and we're just moving into injury time now. Fans are chanting, "We want 5" from the away side. And there we have it. The season starts with Haggis Hunters 1, Dudley Hill 4. Smuts already pointing out Dudley Hill top of the league. And thanks for everything, Fernando. Guys, to be fair, I know I'm doing this on my own, so you're going to get bored of hearing me. But when there's so many of you in the chat, I love reading the shit you lot come out with. It actually turned out to be an even game. Haggis definitely had the better of it in the second half. Hans-Jörg Butt, not exactly impressing on his debut. And despite the fact they've conceded 4, Jeremies has picked up man of the match, which I'm sure will cause a fair bit of discussion amongst the masses. Steve doing his best Fife impression whenever the Devils won. I was also jumping around the room. Interesting when I can't think of a time when a team has lost 4-1 and got 2 players with 9s and a further 2 with 8s. Interesting, especially when the team that did win only got 1 player with a 9 and it was the goalkeeper. But huge congratulations there to Steve. He's got Guerrero with a debut goal, Mackay with a debut goal. He's had Kaladze, Del Piero all making their debuts as well. Fantastic performance all round, and certainly will give both managers food for thought moving forward about how they are going to continue into the season from here. It is only game 1. I'm sure Ian certainly will not be panicking. So we move into a game I'm really looking forward to, Gazelles versus Hulls. 2 managers who, it's odd to say because obviously I have much respect and time for all of you, but 2 managers I do really enjoy talking to off air as well as on air, and two of the bigger characters in my opinion within the league. Let's have a quick look at what Hulls have put together. Tactically, I'll look at the team first before I describe them as a team. Tactically, again, Jens has gone very much what's in fashion with everyone else. I quite like Vogel being the centre midfielder. I think he's looked at what other teams did last season and gone, do you know what, the more sort of strong tacklers, let's be difficult to beat and go from there. It was a big call. I'll come on to their transfers in a minute. It was a big call, but he's putting his faith in Crespo to do the job for him this year. Ricardinho and Brozak do look good behind him. So it'll be interesting to see what happens. In terms of transfers, when you look at the list, I think it looks reasonable. I think there are other teams who have perhaps brought in stronger players, but it looks good on paper. However, I think it has cost them in terms of players out. When you see names like Volodenkov, Van Nistelrooy in particular, even to an extent Rivaldo, it has cost them to bring in these players. And that would worry me a little bit. And I was one of the early season cheerleaders for Hulls last year, and this doesn't quite. And I'm really sorry, Jens. You're probably not going to like hearing it. I don't get the same feel when I look at the team now. It's a shame for Jens that Hersey is away at the Olympics in the Olympics final, so he can't make his debut. But I think it's interesting. A few people made the remarks, especially with regards to the Van Nistelrooy transfer. They think it made sense, but with an injury to Crespo, obviously Louis Zal's probably second, like the deputy there. But seeing Flo as good as he can be on a home save, not world class but reasonable, is he really the sort of player that's going to fire Hulls up into a top 6 challenge when called upon? Listen, I hope I'm wrong, and there is plenty of quality in that 24. So good luck to Hulls. I was just making sure. I saw the comment there about Dida, and I was like, oh my god, have I put the wrong goalkeeper in? But no, that's correct. Costanzo's definitely starting. You worried me then. So we move on to the Gazelles. Again, the team that I tipped to win it, and I still believe should have done better last year, much to Duggan's contempt at me keep saying it. I think they, to an extent, failed. I can see obviously watching the season play out, I can see where the limitations were, and I certainly believe they have improved this season. I think they've significantly improved as well. I know his main concern last year was scoring goals. Similar to what I said about Dudley, that cannot be an excuse this year with the transfers he's done. I think they have good backup options in terms of reserve players as well, which could prove useful as the season goes on. If there's injuries or suspensions, etc. I think Gazelles should be really, really confident this year. And again, I know I said that last year, but where I said I had a different feel for Halls, I was confident in Gazelles last year, but I think I'm more confident in Gazelles this year. I'm not saying I'm not going to tip them, and I've got a prediction table to give at the very end. I've not put them top this year, but they should certainly be playoffs as an absolute minimum. So looking at the transfers, again, there's a lot of good and big names there. Vieri, obviously the standout one, but Collins and Tomadera, as we said, goals were the concern. I thought Okoronkwo, from what I remember, he was very unhappy all season at Churchtown, despite playing regularly and getting good ratings. And I think that's a very good signing for Duggan. My only slight concern, if I was to pick one out, I'm not a massive fan of what he's got in AM as options. Tato, my prediction table will be at the very end of the show before I end the stream. Don't worry. And your team they feature on it obviously, and they feature relatively well. But we'll come back to that. AM options for me is the one where I don't necessarily think they've got as good as maybe Duggan would want, but when you see the team again, you see that Collins, for example, is starting there. We saw at Bostock what he can do in that position, so I'm sure he's not overly concerned at all. Just send some squad numbers in. And if we can have a few predictions for game 2, to see what people think. Boateng for Wellens if there's an issue. Oh, okay. No. There's no issue with. I think you're allowed to name 3 in the squad, in the matchday squad from memory. So no issues there. Alf Bridge, the first one in with a 1-1. Steve Wright 2-2. Hodgie saying 3-1. Let's see what we've got. Another 1-1 and another 2-2 coming in as well. A lot of black and gold early. Boyd McGregor in charge this time, someone who got spoke about the other night during what was an excellent, I say preview night. It wasn't really a preview night. It's Collins on his debut makes it 1-0. But yeah, shout out to the likes of Duggan and Mega Horse and everyone who contributed to set up Friday night. It was a good laugh, good chat, and a good quiz that I enjoyed listening into while I was doing all the transfers for you, and some good charitable donations made as well. Back to the action, halftime. Gazelles 1-0 up. Collins, as mentioned, on his debut. Not a lot of action from either side. Much different to the first game we watched. Let's have a look at what the home side have come up with here. Excuse me. Collins rating an 8 on his debut. Attempting quite a lot, the joint most amount of passes along with Okoronkwo, 2 players that I mentioned in the build-up to it. Vieri, not overly involved, not seeing much of the ball, but the players in the midfield certainly doing their bit, and Dede and Volodenkov again also contributing. Just making sure I haven't missed anything there. No, not yet. While we wait to see if Duggan wants to change anything. Oh, here we go. Yeah. I'll make that substitution in a second for you, sir. Looking at the Hulls Vikings, again, it's not great. I said I like the look of where Vogel was playing, but he's not performing to his usual high standards. Brozek's certainly not performing to his usual high standards. Kandaya and Milevsky, arguably the pick, well, ratings-wise, certainly are the pick of the players in that first half. I'm sure Jens will be wanting to mix things up. While he types in what he wants to do, let's just make that. So, Toe Madeira coming off the... Interesting. This is one of the different approaches people have. I'm not sure if it's the main focus for this particular sub, but I know Duggan's one of the few who really takes yellow cards into account at half time when he's deciding on his subs. Gerard for Gerard and swap with Vogel is the Hull sub. Gerard for Gerard and swap with Vogel. So certainly an attacking change there for Hulls as we kick off the second half. And they've already applied a bit more pressure than we saw in the first half. But Gazelles have withstood that and are coming forward themselves now. It's become a bit more end-to-end, which is certainly better to see. Just hope that there's some goals to back it up for both sides. And it's 1-1 and it is Crespo. And we'll slow it down a little bit for the final exchanges to see if we get a winner. We've got an injury there, and it is the debutant goal scorer Collins who has picked up that injury. Interesting to see. If I remember rightly, Wellens did play an advanced role for Gazelles on 1 or 2 occasions last year, so it might just be a straight swap for Duggan. Give him a moment to type what he wants to do. But it's finally poised with 10 minutes plus injury time to go, 1-1. Yeah, and he has gone Wellens. Can Richie Wellens come on and be the hero for the home side? A few people did predict draws before kickoff. Smut saying he might be out for the season. There's going to be 2 minutes of injury time, still looking for a winner. Dede brings it forward, goes past Panucci, he gets a yellow card. Free kick, Madeira to deliver. Ferdinand, Vieri. We're into injury time now. And congratulations everyone who predicted 1-1. You did get that one right in what was certainly a better second half for Hulls, even though the better chance seemed to fall to Gazelles. It didn't look that way as I was looking at the text, but it doesn't always go the way it looked. Gazelles arguably getting away with one there. Dede, man of the match. Very good player, proven track record in the Super League. Just looking through here to see, Wellens didn't, he only had 10 minutes, so he didn't get overly involved. Toe Madeira arguably would have liked a bit more involvement with his 45 minutes. Do you have an office water cooler? No, Ian, I don't have an office water cooler. I just have the remnants of my 2-litre bottle of Iron Brew that I've been slowly working through all week. I just have what's left of that to finish, if you're actually that interested. Look at the away side, who was certainly much better second half. Quite a few of the ratings have increased. I mentioned obviously Toe Madeira's involvement. Gerard certainly came on and had a bit more of an impact, getting a bit more involved. I think a draw was probably, I think it's right, the comment there that a draw was probably a fair result. Both sides I think they'll be happy to avoid defeat in the first game. It certainly gives them something to work on and move on from here. Now, I'm not sure if Jamie will be back yet to be able to watch this. So again, I'll skip forward. And next on the list is the heavy hitter game, a game that a lot of people are predicting could be the final this year, Lettersford versus Northern Burn. You'll notice Burn are significantly impacted by the fact Sigalko and Robin are away at the Olympics. And they've also left a space in the first team squad free for their out-of-league signing, which they're hoping to arrive before the next game. This is the formation. Nothing surprising here from Burn, sticking with the championship winning formation. But the big name signings are in there. Vieira, having Vieira and Keane in the same team And this is going to counter a point I'm going to make when we come on to the transfers, but I think Burn are in an envious position that they were good enough to win it last year, and they have improved their 11, which makes it daunting for everybody else. It was an interesting tactical choice as I was looking through it. You know, you've got Lopez and Larson there, and they're both playing behind Totti. I maybe would have had one of them up top with Totti behind, but I'm not, I'm not the current Super League champion, so I will not be questioning Mr. Edwards' decision. But it's nice to see that both Scott and Tato have both said the same as I did. On the transfer front, I mean, you see Hoffland, you see Vieira. If you can significantly improve a championship-winning 11, those are the sort of transfers that do it. However, what I would be cautious of when looking at this is they have brought good, and in particular those two players, very good players in. But in terms of players out, I think that they have significantly improved the opposition. I think you look at Chun-Su and Henri going to Astor, you look at Alan Smith and Jens Jeremy's going to Haggis. I think these players will improve these teams, and does it lessen the gap a little bit in quality? I think Burns 11 is better, but is that as a whole squad, are they built to defend a title? It is very difficult to defend a title, as we know. Only one team has ever won it back to back, as I'm sure Ryan might have mentioned on 100 or 200 occasions during his chairmanship. Hoffland's average rating from last year was 744, Tater. And the other thing, picking up on something Mike Savage has put in the comments, the other thing that surprised me a little bit is that, yes, there was a lot of money spent on Perez for him then to not even make the 24, which was an interesting choice. But good luck to Northern Burn as they look to emulate what only Bolton Phoenix have done before them. And then we come to Lettersford, who are affected by Toby being suspended, Kivu being away at the Olympics. This, not an unfamiliar tactic for those who have followed Lettersford. Interesting positional play for a gap, in my opinion, I should say. Sorry, but Dan is a real student of this stuff, and he will know what he can get here. And also for Chris Perry, who never ever featured. Dudley took him in, gave him a home, proved he was good, and now all of a sudden he's starting for one of the title favourites. So interesting to see what Perry can do. As for Lettersford, as a squad, again, I spoke a lot last year about the impact Dan had, and I was very interested in the quality thread that Duggan put out about all the teams. And as I was reading through that, I was like, do you know what? I'm going to end up echoing a lot of the points. I do think they can go better, obviously, than last year. I think that they've got more substantial options now than they had last year. And players, again, if you refer to people like Perry, I think that they've got better players to work with. And again, when I was looking through the reserves, they've got a mixed ability of reserves, but there are 2 or 3 players there who could come in if they need to. I would be, if I was a Lettersford fan, I would be quite excited about what could happen this year. Even though, I mean, he did mention to me, you're going to question why Talon Martin is in the first or the first team squad when there are players like Carew and Christian and Dean Shields, of course, not getting in there. But again, Dan is not a man that I'm going to be questioning a lot of decisions after what he managed to do last year. Assign some squad numbers. And let's have some predictions, please. We have Lettersford versus Northern Burn in Game 3. and Steve Wright first in this one with 2-1. Let's kick off and see what happens. As we said, Burn depleted with a couple of definite first team starters. Hodge also going 2-1. Assistant Savage going big with a 7-0 home win against the defending champions. I mean, it would be good for the neutral, especially with time flying by already at 36 minutes. Are we going to get a first half goal? We are going to get a first half goal, and it's Contra on 42 minutes who gives the defending champions the lead. I mean, I'll be honest, I didn't see 9 attempts total in that. So it proves that what you see is not necessarily what you get. That, however, is not textbook Lettersford. Although, I'm saying that again, you've got Pat Zoglu there rating a 9. Serini rating an 8 despite his concession of a goal. I did question Didier's position in the team, and he's one of the few players rating as lowly as a 6 at half time. Hope Iran scores for Iran. I don't get that one, sorry, Smuts. And just while we wait for Dan to decide if he wants to make any changes, we will tick over. I must have seen Ian in the chat at some point. He wouldn't be missing opening day. He's got to be here somewhere. Yes, I have seen him. So they do lead. Northern Burn do lead. It's been a reasonable performance. They haven't had much to do in the way of defensive work, which explains why the likes of Hoffland and Lizarazu haven't seen much of the ball. But I think when you've got Vieira, Keane, they're going to be difficult to break down. So it is going to test even the best squads like Lettersford, and then it's just a case of Larson, Lopez, Totti taking the chances when they come. So Lettersford are going Perry off for Addo. Swap with Patsasoglu. And Alex off for Hargreaves. Wait, just Alex off for Hargreaves. So just to confirm, Hargreaves is playing left midfield. Big Kid, good evening, Big Kid. How are you, pal? I'd swap a gap with Etsabaria. That would be arguably the change I would make as well, if I'm being honest. Dan, if you could just confirm Hargreaves is playing left, you don't want to swap him with Petkov or anything. Confirmed, thank you. And Ian's not one for making changes. Still haven't seen anything from him in the chat recently to suggest he wants to make any changes, but I'll give him 30 seconds just to be sure. As is, there we go. Smuts making point out to Big Kid the role of the assistant manager. Take the blame when you lose and take no credit when you win is basically the story of how that works. And Dan explaining why the tactical decisions being made are being made. It's very Burn heavy, this opening 10 minutes of the second half, but no additional goals yet. They're still coming forward looking to wrap it up though. And all I saw was it's absolute madness. So we will go back and see what the red card was for, but now Mr. Megahorse has a decision to make, chasing the game. Does he go one at the back? Or, he's only got Constantinu left on the bench, so the only thing, if he doesn't want to do that, is to move Addo back. We will let Mr. Horse make his decision. If beating Northern Burn wasn't hard enough, doing it with one fewer man on the pitch is not it's not a helpful thing to have to do, especially losing already with only 25 minutes left to play. Tato saying he saw it and it was a headbutt. And Steve loving the fact that disciplinary procedure in Australia, 1 game ban for a headbutt. It's Addo back, Gat to DM, Ronaldinho centralised. I would be inclined to agree, Jens, that a win away at Lettersford, missing 2 of your key players, would be a massive statement. But it's certainly not over yet, and Lettersford are looking like they're starting to create chances, even with 1 man fewer, throwing caution to the wind. Oh. There you go. I do apologise, Mr. Mega Horse. Can Burn wrap this up, or can Lettersford snatch an unlikely draw? 6 minutes plus injury time to go. And there is the goal, and it is Totti who wraps it up. 2-0 for Northern Burn. The arrow wasn't central to begin with. And there is the final whistle. It has finished 2-0 to Northern Burn. In, again, what was quite an even game stats-wise. Lettersford certainly did, they created their chances. It just wasn't their usual standard of finishing, unfortunately for them. And again, 10 men certainly would not have helped. I've hardly thrown Lettersford under the bus, have I? I never got their man sent off, and I carried the arrow going where it was going originally. Anyway, Ekiot getting man of the match. Again, the losing team getting a defensive player to man of the match is an interesting choice. Agat's rating didn't improve. Continuing the questions why he was selected the way he was. But again, Dan certainly knows what he's doing. I'm sure it's not the last time we'll see him in that position either. Petkov not as involved as he usually is, although he did attempt a large number of passes. As for, in fact, while I remember, let's quickly confirm. In a moment of manners, Patsazoglu has headbutted Gustavo Lopez. So well done, Tato. That is a great spot. Northern Burn, with a very Northern Burn-esque performance, although Larson not impressing really on his debut. Very much the standard of performance that he was doing at Haggis, but I'm sure Ian will be confident of getting a lot more out of him as time goes on. And again, just to reiterate, imagine what this performance would look like with the likes of Robin and Cezalco in the team as well. So congratulations to Northern Burn, who get their defence off to a winning start. Commiserations Lettersford, who I'm sure are already plotting what was to come in game 2. Looks like the game is desperate for us to play this. I would like to think Jamie, if he is about and able to watch it, will be with us by now. So let's crack on with Bostock versus away at Dragons. And this is the tactical choice Scott has put out. I'm going to throw it out there. I did say at the start that this has very much become the 2 at the back capital, and I appreciate this is still 2 at the back. But I respect the fact that Bostock have at least gone 3 up top. Something a little bit different to what everyone else is doing. So it'd be interesting to see how that plays out. I think you're seeing a large number of new players there. Say Roberto, new wing backs in the team. Keane and Saviola both new as well. So I'm sure Scott will be hoping for a few impressive debuts tonight. As for their action in the transfer window, I'm kind of on the fence, if I'm completely honest. I mean, I think, again, it's very difficult because every player that is exchanged between all the teams is a decent player. So I can just say for every team on paper, it looks good. I'm not 100% convinced by Bostock's business, if I'm honest. Has the squad overly improved? I mean, possibly, but I'm just not overly convinced. I think I've seen a few bits online as I've been scrolling through. Cafu isn't getting any younger. Zé Roberto has a torrid injury record. Saviola, got a few goals for Astor last year. In fairness to him, will he do better at Bostock? Robbie Keane, that hardly featured. In fairness to him, I think they had a good team. I think they have brought in some good players, but on the balance of what everyone has done, I think they've kind of stayed stagnant in where they are, and stagnation in the Super League tends to mean actual regression. So I will be, I'm not concerned that they're going to be finishing bottom, but I don't necessarily think they're destined for greatness. We move on to Dragons, who was well documented, went from bottom to bottom again. What I will say when we come to look at the squad is I think Jamie has certainly had a lot more influence on the squad selection, because there are players that I think everyone would expect to see in the team if Smuts was firmly behind the wheel that aren't even in the first team squad. So I think Jamie is taking a very keen eye on what's going on to begin with, in a hope of getting a strong start. David's being suspended is big, but what I do like about what Dragons have done is some of the signings they've had. If we look at the top 5, even to an extent top 6 names on this list, I think they're good players. I mean, obviously we all know Zidane's track record in the Super League isn't great, but if by some minor miracle Jamie and Sluts can get him playing, he is a good player. I think Morientes can be a good player if given a run of games. Van der Vaart is a player who can be very good if given the run of games. So Dragons could have picked up some very good players here, and could, if the two lads can get them playing, could significantly improve on where they were. Will they, though, is the big question. If we can get some match predictions for this one, please. And it's Jens first in this time with a 1-1 draw. Tato going 1-2, Dragons going 2-1. Let's see how it pans out. Excuse me. And certainly plenty of yellow and blue from the home side in the first sort of 10 minutes. New manager boost. There isn't a new manager, Alf. Unless he knows something we don't. I've seen Anelka's name there, and Keane's name, and Saviola's. Bostock's certainly starting to turn screw a little bit, but not taking their chances. Whereas Cliver, if he's given one, the boys will be confident that he'll take it. I think both teams have certainly had their say. That this isn't going to be a 0 shots each at half time, I hope. No, certainly not. All that first half was really missing was a goal. Some wayward shooting, it would appear. Dragons, if they were to have 4, maybe 5 on target, they would say it was a very good half, and they would have expected more. Let's have a quick look at what they're doing player-wise. Smarts, I'm not sure if you're in communication with Jamie, because I've not seen him in the chat, but if you can let me know if you want to make any changes, please. Yeah, Cliver only rating a 6 at half-time isn't ideal, and they would be... How many long shots? But the shots are shared. Van der Vaart having 2, Clive at 1, even Gattuso having 1, and the wingers having 1 as well. Jamie backs? No, Jamie's not backseat. He's firmly in charge. Smuts is there purely in an advisory role, and then when the wheels come off, he's there to take the piss out of the league. Really, Alf, is the honest interpretation I have of how Dragons are setting up for this season. Smuts saying as is. So we move over to Bostock. I'm not sure. I've seen Scott in the chat for a little while. He was there earlier. I know that much though, but hopefully he's still about and watching this to let me know if he wants to make any changes. The first thing I'm looking at is the free forwards. There's certainly, yeah, I would agree against David's in that midfield, and it does look solid. The forwards have all had the shots between them, which is good from a Bostock perspective. But there's not much. I'm guessing they're sort of touch and shoot because there's not much passing between them. Jacques coming on for Morales at half time. Thank you, Scott. That's the substitutes made. Let's see what the second half has to offer. We've reached the hour mark. Still no goals in this game. Cole getting a yellow card. Bostock certainly looked to be at least attempting to create stuff, but here come Dragons again. And the time has flown by. We'll slow. And on on the 90th minute, Keane has scored. And did that say Zé Roberto's picked up an injury as well in injury time? We will find out, or Scott will find out in the packs, I'm sure. But yes, it's a 90th minute dramatic winner for the away side, Bostock Stanley, in what was a very even game. Dragons finishing was just poor. I mean, Bostock's wasn't great, but they got the goal and the 3 points. And Duggan is correct. Heartbreak for Dragons. It certainly was not a poor performance by the home side by any stretch of the imagination. They certainly performed better than they did for large parts of last season. And it's just luck was not on their side today at all. They just need to improve. Actually getting shots on target will help score goals. Let's have a look at what Bostock managed to do. Lee Bowyer picking up man of the match again. See, this is a game where there was no players rating 9s. Very, very even. But a winning start. Yeah, exactly. So that's a couple more on target and you'd be much happier. So it's a winning start for Bostock, who obviously listened to everything I said and thought, no, not having it at all. Congratulations to them. Commiserations, Dragons. And we move on to what I believe is game 5 of the evening. Fulchester versus Churchtown. Fulchester under Macca's reign, as always, but now with former chairman and 2-time Super League winner Ryan in. I'm not sure if he's classing it as an assistant manager or an advisor's role, but you cannot deny that having his experience is certainly going to be beneficial to Fulchester. Again, referring back to the thread that Gazelles did, the one thing, I generally always tip Fulchester to do well. I always rated Macca, and again, having Ryan on board is only going to boost that confidence. Will they get a better chance than they had last year? I'm not sure. If they are, they're gonna really earn it this year. I think their business has been steady. Again, similar to what I said at 1 or 2 clubs earlier. There are certainly teams that have done bigger and better business than Fulchester, but what they've done is solid enough, and the guys know what they're doing and what they were looking for. They've got a lot of attacking players to pick from, which is interesting when they're only playing one up front, for example. Excuse me. This is the team put forward. The big money signing Cisse starts on the bench. Owen being supported by Nedved and Ronaldo. Giggs and Beckham continues to play out wide, and the main man Nicky Butt starts again in midfield with his partner in crime, Bishka. And hang on. Sorry, Dimble, one sec. There was a reason I hadn't put this in. I had to query something. Churchtown. All that prep and I still missed one. Talk amongst yourselves. Churchtown. That's right, I was querying the goalkeeper. I do apologise, Dimble, but there we go. Your team is now selected. It was never going to run smoothly game week 1, was it? I got the pointer estimation wrong. Very good, Tater. So let's try that again. Here is the team put forward. A tactic very similar to a lot of other teams, but obviously with their own individual instructions. I actually have quite a good feeling about what Churchtown are doing. I like some of the transfers. Hang on. I'm still not happy about that. Is that what he called it? No. Let's try that. Just to make sure it's got the right instructions. Everyone else is still in the right position. I thought I got stressed before Devils games. I get more stressed doing this. It's not good for my health. There we go. As I was saying, I got a good feeling about what Dimble's doing at Churchtown. I do think they've brought in some very good players. They're another one of those teams that I think are on the much improved list. It was an interesting choice at goalkeeper. I actually mentioned to Dimble beforehand that obviously we spoke a lot last year about Headman and how well a lot of us thought he'd done. But he's brought in Oliver Kahn and he goes straight in as the first choice for this game. But all in all, I quite like what Churchtown are doing, and I think they're going to upset the apple cart a little bit. They certainly got more options, I think, which will please Dimble, and they would be on the list of dark horses for top six. If you're basing it on last year's top 6, I think Churchtown are one of those that are dark horses for breaking into that this year. So if we can have some predictions in for this game, please. Yes, Tato, Season 10 bloopers are starting early. Again, the fact that I went back and redid all the transfers because I wasn't happy with how it went the first time tells you it was never going to run smoothly. And it took me almost 2 times longer than it normally does to set the teams up tonight as well, because I was conscious and I still missed one. Jens first in for 1-0. Smuts going 0-0. Alf saying 2-1. Let's kick this one off and see what happens. Big Kid saying 1-0. Tato 3-0. Steve Wright 1-1. Seems to be quite a bit of action in the first 10 minutes there. Time certainly not flying by as it did in 1 or 2 games earlier in the evening. Fulchester coming forward now. Michael Owen, and then they've got a corner. Excuse me. A couple of yellow cards being dished out in this first half as well. It looks to me like the Churchtown players. And it is 1-0. It's Palermo. No, it's been disallowed. And another yellow card for dissent this time. Furious with the decision. And Fulchester go up the other end and score just before half-time through Nedved. And looking for a second now. It wasn't to be, but Fulchester do go in 1-0 ahead. Dominant in terms of chances and much more efficient and effective than again some of the other teams. I spoke about the conversion rates. 6 shots on goal, 6 on target, much better. I don't actually think I've seen either of the guys in the chat tonight. I will click on the stats briefly if either of you are about to let me know if you want to make any changes. Yes, Smuts and Ian Edwards both saying harsh. It did appear harsh. There was a goal disallowed just before as well. Yeah, here we go. Palermo scored, but it was ruled out because of an offside. Palermo was the one furious, and he received a yellow card for his troubles. Excuse me. And we'll tick over so that Dimble, who is watching, because I've seen him in the chat as well, he can let me know if he wants to make any changes. Mentioned the goalkeeping selection. Khan is rating a 9 at halftime, proving why Dimble selected him. Dimble's just taking you through his tactics. All right. If I only make one error all season, then I'm happy I've done it in game night 1. Tim for Santa Cruz is the requested change. And we kick off the second half, see if the sub makes a difference. And oh, it's a red card. I mentioned the amount of yellow cards. Well, hang fire on that sub, Dimble, because you might want to change your mind. Now that there's a red card, man down, goal down. It's not turning into a good night. Tato calling them animals. It's a little bit harsh. Evening, Ryan. Welcome to the party. You've joined us as Fulchester winning 1-0, and Churchtown are now down to 10 men. Same sub and Stanich to MC. So we're going like that. I'm drunk. It's good to know. So Dimble, if you could just confirm you want it like that. Do you want Santa Cruz moving centrally? Yeah. Central. There we go. Thank you very much, sir. And we carry on with the second half. Another team with a big uphill challenge, much like in the Northern Burn game earlier. But they certainly do seem to be giving it a go, or there's at least plenty of white and blue text. And it is Santa Cruz. And we'll slow it down for the last 10. Can Churchtown hold out for a draw here? Or possibly even go on and win it themselves? Santa Cruz again getting involved, but now they're on. There's another yellow card. Shut up, Steve. Moving towards injury time. There will be 4 minutes of that injury time. And Beckham does score, and more late drama in the Super League. As Beckham on 88 minutes has surely wrapped it up for the home side. Well, we thought it was harsh at half-time. You would certainly say it's harsh at full-time. I mean, stats-wise, Fulchester obviously created more, having played almost an entire half against 10 men. And it's still Bonving Fifey. I'm guessing that's supposed to be bothering. Congratulations to Fulchester. John Curtis picking up man of the match. I think Macca actually said Curtis was going to have a more influential role on the team this year. So that will please him, seeing that nice and early. Discipline was not a problem for the home side, whereas Churchtown, a lot of discipline issues. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 yellow cards, and I believe Tomasi's actually his second yellow, so 6 yellow cards. But yeah, on the balance of what we're watching, again, the word harsh being used. I think there's plenty of positives there for Dimble. The ratings don't match necessarily what we saw. A lot of 6s there throughout the team as well. But again, against a very tough opposition, playing nearly a whole half with 10 men to have got themselves back into it shows a lot of character, and character is certainly something that Churchtown got associated with last year. So I think they'll be okay. We have 2 games left this evening, and we move to Astor versus Sloths. And here is the Sloths team for tonight. Another team basically going with what everyone else is playing. When I was looking through the squad, I certainly thought that there are reserve players who should be in the first team squad over some of the players that have been selected. And I think that they have lost better than they've brought in. So I would be concerned if I was a Sloths fan of further regression and not necessarily challenging. Not necessarily challenging at the right end of the table. But there are some names here that will please and excite. And the obviously standout one, Raoul as well, making his debut tonight. And again, when you look at the list, I said at the start there were certain players who don't normally get a look in that I'm excited to see if they do. Ibrahimovic would be one of them. Should he get a few games this season as well? But yeah, Sloths are a team I'd be slightly concerned about, and they do start with probably. I mean, Valgarin's a new player. Desai was one of their main players last year, both suspended. It's not ideal. It's not ideal preparation for the first game for Sloths. We move on to Astor, who have lost Donovan and Lee Chun-soo to international duty. But other than that, they have a full contingent to go with. And much like Bostock earlier, they're going 3 up top. And it is a very interesting looking 3 as well. Roberts came in and had a massive impact last year. Henri, we know what he's capable of, certainly when he was wearing a Burn shirt. Rossini's the interesting one. A lot of people think he should do a lot better than he does. So maybe Tato is the man to get it out of him. Rayed then playing the supporting role. It was largely Scally and Foe last year in the holding midfield roles, but new signing Good Johnson comes in. Tato already backing himself to lose 3-0 is the prediction. I mentioned when we looked at Dudley, Astor were the other side that I've noted down significant improvement, up there with the most improved squads. Looking through the team, I would be slightly worried that the midfield still isn't necessarily the strongest. But again, from what we saw from Astor at times last season, Tato certainly has them working in a way that plays to what strengths they have. Yen's going 5-5. We kick off the penultimate game of the evening. And Zizi Roberts has scored, but it's again been disallowed. A couple of disallowed goals we've now had on open night. We've had plenty of action, red cards, disallowed goals, a couple of goal fests. So it's certainly been an entertaining night. Me forgetting how to do this entirely and forgetting to put my mic up. So can't say we don't entertain you here in the Super League. Ben Williams giving out a couple of yellow cards in this first half as well. Refs certainly being strict on the opening night. Approaching half-time, will we see a goal? No. The first half finishes 0-0. Sloths creating. Sloths away kit make me melt. Sloths creating more chances during that half. Astor just the 2, none on target. They did have the goal disallowed, however. Neil Scally attempting a lot of passes, but when you're looking at the attacking players, he's clearly not passing it forwards. Or if he is, they're the ones that aren't being completed because they're not really touching the ball much at all. I'll leave it on the screen for a minute to see if Tato wants to do anything. Have we seen Rob in the chat at all tonight? Just scrolling back through quickly. I'm not sure I have. I will click on his stats in case he is about. Once Tato's decided if he wants to do anything. Jens wants to buy a Sloth away kit, but certainly doesn't want to buy a Dudley home kit. So I can burn it. We'll click over to Sloths now, just in case Rob is around. Arellano for Henri. So Henri is actually coming off. Another debutant only lasting 5 minutes. And Rayed up front. Rob is about. Hello, pal. He's also making a sub. And Torres. Kavanaghi. There you go, sir. Both sides making a half-time sub. And we kick off to see if either has a significant impact on the scoreline thus far. And it's ZZ Roberts again. And for the second time tonight, he has a goal disallowed. Well, if they go on to lose this 1-0, I'm sure Tato will have something to say about this. Just past the hour mark. Ryan's back again. Still no goals, or no awarded goals at least. And we'll just start to slow it down with 15 minutes to go. And this time, Astor score, will it be allowed? And it's a third goal disallowed for Astor. Tato will be going absolutely nuts. I'm keeping a tally this year because last year it was ridiculous, he says. Well, it wasn't ZZ this time, but you have had a third goal disallowed. And here they come again, looking for a fourth. Steve's just putting all different ways. At least I can't be blamed for this. Who's the ref? Ben Williams is the ref, Alf. 5 minutes to go. If Sloths nick this 1-0, Tato is going to go mad. Absolutely berserk. Has to hold on to possession. Offside. And now has to come forward again. Scally trying to do it all himself. And it's a good save, and the keeper holds on to it. One last chance, maybe. It's a throw-in. Free kick given. And Materazzi, oh, nearly in injury time. The match finishes. Does ZZ have an arrow one? The match finishes 0-0. The stats suggest it was even, but there will be a lot of complaining about the 3 disallowed goals from Astor Athletic. Joey Johnson picking up man of the match for the home side. I mean, it says there, ZZ Roberts, 2 shots, 1 on target. We know that's not the case. Scott Sadler saying scandal. Alf asking for VAR. Yes, in about 15 years, Alf, that'll be a thing. Sloth straight in with solid point. Well done, lads. I'm sure, yes, Big Kid, it is unbelievable. It's not the first time we've seen this though. There's been 1 or 2 occasions in the past where teams have had 3 or 4 goals disallowed, and it doesn't get any, as much as, you know, it's not nice to hear. As a neutral, it doesn't get any less entertaining watching it happen. I'm sure Tato is absolutely fuming. Sloth saying no scandal if he can't keep his players on side. This is very, very, very true. Keeper putting in a good performance for the away side, and Ndai doing what Ndai does. He must average a 9 every season. You can add VAR into the commentary. Apart from that, it was a bit meh, really, from Sloths. VAR is on the CM. No, it's not on CM now, Alf. It's on FM, and it probably takes just as long as it does in real life, which makes that game go for about 4 days per match. So we will not be adding it here. So both teams, again, as we said in one of the earlier fixtures, both teams avoiding defeat on opening day. Certainly something to build on. Astor will be very frustrated. Yes, and as Rob says, Desai back next week. We move on to the last game of the evening, and it's a game we've all become very familiar with because they only seem to play each other now, as Locomotive Boston host the Devils. Did we say this is the 4th game in a row, or the 4th consecutive game for Devils against Locomotive? So that Hodgie should know by now what he's up against. Loco going with the fan service formation tonight. And interestingly, he pointed out as well, Greasy pointed it out, that a lot of his business, all bar one of his business, were attacking signings. Is that a sign of a change in mentality at Loco, or are we just being lulled into a false insecurity? I mean, it'll be interesting to know people's opinions when you see the players that have been brought in. Rivaldo, mixed time in the Super League. Figo, massively underperformed at times. Bruging, nobody other than me really liked playing him. Seedorf generally underperforms in the Super League. So although they are attacking, Fifey should be like an F1 director and overrule anything he doesn't like. Although they are big names that have been brought in at Loco, are they substantial enough to get him back a title? I'm undecided myself, if I'm honest. I don't. Again, they're not awful, and if he can get them all playing, then potentially he's done very well. But it's a big if for me. Seedorf last season average. Well, he was playing for Dudley Hill, and yes, he averaged 6.60. So he was playing very average for a very average team. So again, that is the lineup that Greasy has gone with. As you saw from the team selection, Lewis suspended, Tonetto injured, Zambrotta suspended, so he has been restricted a little bit. He did have a bit of a laugh at everyone who was missing players through the Olympics, to then find he was missing players himself anyway. We move on to the Devils, and this is what Hodgie's playing. No real surprises at all. Only one of the 3 new players get a place in the starting 14. That's Zauri at left wing back, which sees Kuhl drop to the bench. The other new players, Ayala and Kesman, don't even make the squad. I mean, similar to Burn, Devils are one of those teams that it's always hard to say whether they've improved or not. I did say to Hodgie, I like the business. I was fairly critical last year of the business to an extent, and said that I wasn't overly enthused by what he'd done to the team. I like this business a bit more. Has he substantially improved the team? Probably not. Has he done enough? I mean, I think Kesman is probably a better understudy for Mpenza than he had before. Ayala, is it a step up on what he had before? Is probably very much of a muchness. Sorry. Zari, he just doesn't like playing Kuhl. So yes, you can't say it's not a step up, I suppose. So Devils will very much be in the mix. If we can have predictions for the last game of the evening, please. Can you have a look at Oliveira? Sure, why not? There you go. Nothing much to look at. 1-0 says Tato, 2-1 says Jens, 0-0 says Stee. Let's kick off and see what happens. And a penalty, referee says no, flags up, is giving it, and Montella scores against his old club again. Aidan Friend being overruled by the linesman, and Nesta in off the post makes it 1-1. We started with an end-to-end goal fest. Are we going to end with one here as well? The early indications say yes. And another penalty's been given, and Soroczynski makes it 2-1 to the away side. Is Hodgie finally going to get one over on Greavesy? The Devils certainly creating more and having more on target, which will please Hodgie. Certainly not a textbook performance by Loco. And defensively, Pancaro 6, Junior 6, Klompe 5. That is not what Greavesy will want to see at all. Just having a look through at some of these figures here. The problem is, I mean, I spoke about the likes of Figo and Seedorf. They're just not seeing the ball to do anything with it. Loosen off for Klompe is the change. Greavesy not messing around, straight in with the change there. Boston will make the playoffs, say Tato. I'm not sure I've seen Hodgie. Oh no, there he is. Yeah, I have seen Hodgie. I'll tell a lie. A decent performance. Certainly seeing more of the ball. And you know, we saw Amar's name, saw Mpenza's name. Mpenza's traditionally quite quiet in the first half. He's not had any shots himself yet. But rating-wise, he's up there for his performance. Certainly getting involved, being the team player, and that wall that Hodgie has put in front of the very strong back two is going to be very difficult to break down. Hodgie's saying as is, so we kick off the second half and see if there are more goals in this. And it's Loco who started the quickest. I'm seeing Rivaldo's name quite a bit. Can they make the pressure count though as we pass the hour mark? Figo. And it's another red card, and this time it's for Emerson. So I'm just going to move Soroczynski over like that in the assumption that's what Hodgie's going to do. Just wait for his confirmation. So yeah, thank you very much. And I'll tell you what, Tato does watch very closely because he's already spotted that's another headbutt. Get ready to slow it down where required. Still 2-1 to the away side, but they have now got one man less. We're into the final 10 minutes. Figo, Montella, tripped by Van Bronckhorst. And Rivaldo with a free kick, but saved by Frey. And now Devils try to come forward. Loco hold possession, but they need to score. They need to get forward. They're going to take a point. 2 minutes have been added on. The Devils want a penalty. The referee's had none of it. He's waved it away again. This time the linesman doesn't get involved. And we move into injury time. There's Amar and Mpenza. And Mpenza has wrapped it up. It's 3-1 now to the 10-man Devils. And there is full time. Hodgie has got one over Greavesy at long last in what was a fairly even game. The finishing ability of the Devils' attack was the difference. Congratulations to the Devils, commiserations Greavesy. As we have a quick look here, Montella got his token goal against his former side, and it certainly looked a little bit more Loco-esque in that second half. I think something perhaps needs looking at. Obviously, when the players that are missing are available, I think you'll see a different look from Loco moving forward. As for the Devils, and Mpenza getting man of the match, Dyer as well getting a 9. starting the season, how he intends to carry on. Zauri, as was pointed out, the only new player in the team, he's starting off well. And I would argue, I think the word statement was used in the earlier game with Northern Burn. To an extent, I believe that's a bit of a statement from Devils as well, just to say that they're looking to start strong. If I remember rightly, Hodgie didn't have the best of starts last year, so he'll be looking to rectify that this year and push on. So that concludes game week 1 of season 10. We had Astor 0, Sloths 0, although they had the 3 goals disallowed. Dragons losing 1-0 to Bostock Stanley. Fulchester picking up a described as harsh 2-1 win over Churchtown. Gazelles drawing 1-1 with Halls. Dudley rampant away at Haggis. Lettersford losing to the champions. And as we saw, Devils winning away at Loco. Not that it matters much after game week 1, but Steve would be crying into his cornflakes if I didn't show him that Dudley were already top of the league. I'm sure he'd be taking a picture of it as we speak and sending it to Ryan to let him know that he does know what he's doing. Thank you very much for joining me tonight. Apologies again for the 1 or 2 errors. Taking your feedback that both came privately and publicly about things that I'd maybe had planned. I won't do another game now before Christmas because Christmas is a time for family, and you all have much more important things than me to do between now and then. So there will definitely be 2, if not 3. If I can squeeze 3 in, I will. Games between Christmas and New Year, but there won't be any more games now before Christmas. So I want to wish you all a very Merry Christmas. Enjoy the week, enjoy the time, and we'll speak to each other obviously between now and then anyway, but certainly again afterwards. Again, to Smuts, and in particular Lady Smuts, all the best for bringing baby Smuts into the world. Can't wait for you to confirm it's happened, and I'm already delighted for the pair of you. And a couple asked, so I have prepared it. My prediction table, based on everything that I've said tonight when I've looked at the teams, from 1 to 14, it took me 3 attempts, and all but one team has changed position in every attempt, but my final prediction was Fulchester 1, Lettersford 2, Burn 3, Gazelles 4, Devils 5, Loco 6, Churchtown 7, Haggis 8, Astor 9, Stanley 10, Dragons 11, Halls 12, Sloths 13, Dudley 14. But again, thank you very much. That's game week 1 done. 23 more to go until the playoffs. Until next time from Super League HQ, good night.